As the days turned into weeks, the search parties grew desperate. The dense jungle had swallowed up any hope of a quick resolution. There were no signs of struggle, no evidence of a fight, just an eerie emptiness that seemed to mock the efforts of the soldiers trying to piece together what had happened. Even the most experienced trackers, those who had spent years navigating the rough terrain, were stumped. There was nothing. The military command was forced to expand the search, bringing in helicopters, drones, and intelligence teams from other divisions. But as they scoured the area, they found no clues, no signals, nothing that could provide a shred of information on the fate of the patrol. The longer the search went on, the more puzzling it became. How could a fully equipped unit just disappear without a trace? The tension among the military ranks grew thicker with every passing day. Rumors swirled in the barracks and headquarters. Had they been taken by enemy forces? Were they lost in the unforgiving terrain, incapacitated but unable to call for help? Or had something even more inexplicable occurred? With each failed attempt to uncover answers, the mystery deepened. Then, after what seemed like an eternity, the breakthrough came. It wasn't a search party or a high-tech tool that revealed the answer, but a local guide who stumbled upon something strange during a routine scouting mission. Hidden away in a narrow ravine, buried beneath a blanket of moss and overgrowth, a piece of equipment was found, a radio. The very same radio that had been issued to the missing patrol. It was partially damaged, its casing cracked from the weight of the soil and vegetation, but it still contained enough power to activate the distress signal embedded within. As soon as the team heard the beep of the emergency locator, everything changed. They rushed to the location with a renewed sense of urgency, and what they discovered sent a shockwave through the ranks. When they arrived at the site, the scene was nothing short of chilling. The equipment, the gear, the supplies, everything was in place. But the soldiers who had carried them, they were nowhere to be found. Their backpacks, weapons, and rations were left behind in such a way that it appeared as though they had simply vanished without so much as a trace of struggle. There were no footprints leading away from the site, no signs of what could have happened. It was as if the earth had swallowed them whole. And then there was the final detail that would haunt the investigators forever. One soldier's journal, found at the edge of the site, opened to the last page he had written. The words were brief but powerful. Something is out there. We are not alone. We must leave before it's too late. What do you think happened to them? Do you have your own theories? Leave a comment below and let us know your thoughts. If you're finding this mystery as gripping as we are, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you won't miss the next shocking revelation. We've only just begun to uncover the truth behind this mysterious disappearance. The discovery of the missing patrol's equipment was just the beginning. The question that everyone wanted answered remained unanswered. Where were these soldiers? The search efforts, once conducted with the hope of finding simple clues, now shifted into overdrive. With the discovery of the radio and the journal, the military command had no choice but to escalate operations, bringing in experts from around the world. The terrain was difficult, dense jungles that seemed impenetrable, and a constant threat of the elements making every step a challenge. For days, the soldiers combed through the underbrush, scanning for anything that might provide an answer to the mystery. Despite their tireless efforts, the silence of the jungle was deafening, as though the land itself was hiding the truth. It wasn't just the soldiers who were on edge. The families of the missing personnel began to feel the weight of the unknown. As news of the disappearance spread, the public grew increasingly uneasy. Some speculated that the patrol had been ambushed. Others feared the possibility of a wild animal attack, but there was no evidence of either. With each passing day, the pressure to find answers only grew. In a twist that seemed more like fiction than reality, the search teams began to report strange sightings, shadows moving in the corner of their eyes, sounds that couldn't be identified, and, most chillingly, the distinct feeling of being watched. It wasn't long before rumors began to surface, whispers of something sinister lurking in the jungle, something that didn't belong. Was it a natural force they were up against, or something far more inexplicable? Could it be that the jungle held a secret, one that had kept itself hidden from humanity for centuries? But amidst all these strange occurrences, the search party pushed on. The discovery of the radio had given them renewed hope that the soldiers were still alive. Every team member, from the highest-ranking officer to the newest recruit, felt the weight of the mission pressing on their shoulders. They were not just searching for missing soldiers, they were racing against time to uncover a story that might change the world. As night fell and the forest grew quieter, a breakthrough finally came when one of the searchers stumbled upon a trail faint but unmistakable. Footprints. But what was truly baffling was that these footprints didn't lead in the direction they expected. They were going deeper into the wilderness, far beyond where any military patrol should have been. The question became even more urgent. What had the patrol encountered? As the search teams ventured deeper into the uncharted wilderness, a chilling realization set in. No one truly knew what they were up against. The initial theory that the patrol had simply gotten lost seemed increasingly unlikely as time went on. No signs of a struggle, no scattered equipment, and certainly no trace of where the soldiers had gone. It didn't add up. The longer they searched, the more it felt like they were chasing shadows. In the absence of hard facts, theories began to run wild. Among the military officers and specialists, there were whispers of several possible explanations, each more bizarre than the last. One theory suggested that the soldiers had been victims of a hostile enemy force, perhaps even a special operations unit with advanced camouflage techniques or some form of technology that made them invisible to the patrol's detection systems. But this didn't sit well with most. If the enemy had ambushed the patrol, surely there would have been at least some trace of a firefight or a sign of struggle, but nothing. Absolutely nothing. Another theory, one that was spoken only in hushed tones, hinted at the possibility of a natural disaster, a sudden, violent storm, perhaps, or some kind of seismic event that could have swallowed the patrol whole, leaving no trace of their existence. But this didn't add up either. The soldiers were well equipped and trained to withstand harsh environmental conditions. Moreover, there were no reports of unusual weather or seismic activity in the area at the time. The theory fell apart just as quickly as it had emerged. The most chilling theory of all was one that even the officers in charge were reluctant to entertain: the idea that something supernatural was at play. The jungle, with its dense canopies and dark, mysterious shadows, seemed almost alive in a way that unsettled even the most seasoned soldiers. Some began to speculate that the missing patrol had encountered forces that couldn't be explained by science or reason. Could the soldiers have been victims of some ancient, forgotten force within the jungle? Perhaps a curse or an unknown entity that had lurked in the shadows for centuries. Some local guides spoke of old legends, stories passed down through generations about the jungle's mysterious power to consume those who ventured too far into its heart. But such talk was quickly dismissed by the military leadership as superstitious nonsense. After all, this was the 21st century. There was no room for myth in the world of modern warfare, right? Despite the skepticism, the mystery remained, and with every passing day, the search for the missing patrol seemed to stretch further into the realms of the unexplainable. Theories piled up, each more outlandish than the last, but none offered any answers. As the tension grew, one thing became clear. Whatever had happened to the missing patrol, it wasn't something anyone could have predicted. Just when it seemed as if this search would end in frustration, a seemingly insignificant discovery set the stage for a startling turn of events. It was early in the morning, the sun barely peeking through the thick canopy of the jungle, when one of the searchers, a seasoned local guide named Raphael, stumbled upon a piece of equipment half buried in the underbrush. At first, it seemed like just another abandoned tool or a discarded piece of gear. But as he dug it out, the weight of its importance became clear. It was a military compass, the kind that every soldier was issued, the kind that you would expect to find with a patrol, especially one as meticulously organized as the one that had vanished. But there was something deeply unsettling about this discovery. The compass was found in a location that didn't align with the patrol's planned route. It was far off course, deep into unexplored territory, in a spot that suggested the patrol had wandered into an area they hadn't intended to go. It didn't make sense. Why would they veer so far off their path? The terrain they were traveling through was rugged and dangerous, with no clear benefit to straying from the route. But the compass wasn't the only oddity. As Raphael continued searching the area, he uncovered something even more bizarre. Beneath a thick layer of fallen leaves and vines, he found a small pack of rations. It was unopened, the plastic wrap still intact. There was no indication of a struggle or that the patrol had been ambushed. In fact, the rations appeared to have been set down carefully. It was as if the soldiers had paused for a break and then simply vanished. There were no signs of panic, no hastily discarded equipment, nothing that suggested a fight or an immediate threat. The discovery left the searchers even more confused. If the patrol had been attacked, why was their food left behind? Why had they abandoned the gear they would have needed in a survival situation? It was as if they had left everything behind willingly, almost as if they had been lured somewhere by something they hadn't anticipated. The most disturbing part of this discovery came when the soldiers examined the compass more closely. On the back, etched in tiny, almost invisible writing, was a set of coordinates. Coordinates that didn't match any known location in the area. The coordinates led to an undiscovered site, an area that had not been mapped by military intelligence. The realization hit like a thunderclap. The patrol hadn't just gotten lost. They had stumbled upon something new, something hidden, something that no one could have prepared for. What was this hidden place? Was it an abandoned military site, a forgotten stronghold, or something stranger? Whatever it was, the discovery had unearthed a terrifying possibility. The patrol hadn't just vanished, they had been drawn towards something they couldn't understand. The discovery of the coordinates was the turning point that finally seemed to lead the search in the right direction. The idea that the missing patrol hadn't simply gotten lost, but had been drawn into something unknown, was both disturbing and fascinating. As the investigation team followed the coordinates, the tension among the searchers grew thick with anticipation. What could they be walking into? The path leading to the site was treacherous steep inclines, thick underbrush, and an overwhelming silence that made every step feel like it was being watched. The air grew dense with the kind of heavy quiet that only dense jungles could produce. Every noise was amplified: the rustle of leaves underfoot, the crack of a branch snapping in the distance, the constant buzz of insects. It was as if the jungle itself was trying to keep its secrets hidden. As they approached the coordinates, the team began to notice something odd. The vegetation around them was changing. The trees were taller, their trunks thicker, the foliage denser. But there was something more unsettling. The area was unnaturally quiet. No birds, no animals, just an eerie, suffocating stillness. The air felt heavy, as though the very ground beneath their feet was laden with a history or perhaps something else. Then, out of nowhere, a stone structure appeared. Half hidden by the overgrown jungle, it had clearly been there for centuries, its weathered stones speaking to an age long past. It was a ruin, but not like any they had encountered before. This wasn't an ancient temple or an old military fort. The structure had an unmistakable military design to it. It wasn't just old, it was deliberate. The team carefully examined the structure, discovering remnants of ancient technology mixed with modern materials. Evadun's Avan operation that spanned decades, maybe even centuries. The most shocking revelation came when they found a metallic plaque buried underneath a pile of debris, with markings that could not be deciphered using any known language. The text seemed to pulse with energy, as though it held a deeper, more powerful meaning that couldn't be immediately understood. This was no ordinary ruin. The more they explored, the more it became clear that the missing patrol hadn't wandered into an ordinary forgotten outpost. They had stumbled upon something far more significant, something that could rewrite history itself. The discovery of this place suggested a hidden chapter of history, one that had been deliberately obscured from the world. A chapter of war, secrecy, and lost civilizations. The implications were staggering. Could this be evidence of an ancient civilization that had knowledge far beyond what anyone had imagined? Or was this some kind of forgotten military installation that had remained, hidden from the world, locked away for reasons no one could comprehend? But even more pressing, why had the patrol been drawn here? What was it about this place that had captured their attention, and why did they leave everything behind, as if they had been lured into something or someone waiting for them? This was no longer just a missing patrol. It was a world-changing revelation that threatened to unravel everything the search team knew about history and warfare. And as they prepared to go deeper into the ruins, the chilling question loomed. What else was hidden here? What had the patrol uncovered that was so dangerous it could never be shared with the world? The discovery of the mysterious structure, the strange metallic plaque, and the undeniable connection to the vanished patrol led the team to a single terrifying conclusion. They hadn't just disappeared. They had uncovered something far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. The closer they got to understanding what had happened to the missing soldiers, the more they realized that what they had uncovered was no accident. As they explored deeper into the ruins, they found a hidden chamber beneath the main structure. The air was thick with dust, and the walls seemed to hum with an energy that was both ancient and unsettling. Inside, they discovered what appeared to be a control room with equipment that looked like it belonged to a bygone Aerojet. Some of it seemed inexplicably advanced. Screens flickered with static, and strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls, their meanings still unknown. What shocked the team even more was the discovery of a logbook, its pages yellowed with age but still legible. The entries, written in a language no one could immediately identify, seemed to describe a military operation that had taken place in the area many years ago. The records spoke of experiments that involved both military personnel and civilians, suggesting that the patrol had unknowingly walked into a site that had been off-limits for decades. The log entries were chilling, each one more cryptic than the last, hinting at the involvement of unknown technologies and dangerous experiments that had been carried out under strict secrecy. The more they uncovered, the clearer it became. The patrol had not stumbled onto this site by accident. It was clear that the soldiers had been lured here, and whatever they had uncovered had led to their mysterious vanishing. But the question remained, who or what had drawn them in? The answer came in the most unexpected way. Hidden among the wreckage, they found a piece of advanced communication equipment, a receiver that had been used to send out a distress signal. The signal wasn't sent by the missing patrol, it had been sent to them. The realization hit like a thunderbolt. Someone or something had been watching them the entire time. Theories that had once seemed far-fetched now felt all too real. Had the patrol been part of an experiment to test new technology? Or had they encountered a force so advanced, so hidden, that the world was not yet prepared for its existence? The questions kept piling up, each one more terrifying than the last. But one thing was certain: the disappearance of the patrol was not an isolated event. It was part of something much larger, a secret that had been buried for years, if not centuries. As the news of the discovery spread beyond the confines of the search party, it quickly became clear that what they had unearthed was far more significant than anyone could have imagined. The implications of the missing patrol's find reached far beyond military circles and the immediate families of the vanished soldiers. It would change the way the world viewed not only this forgotten corner of history, but the very nature of warfare and human exploration itself. News outlets around the world picked up on the story, and the mystery of the vanished patrol quickly became a global phenomenon. As the media delved into the findings from the hidden military base, they focused not only on the strange technology found within the ruins, but also on the chilling implications of what this discovery might mean. Was this a piece of hidden history that had been deliberately erased from the public record? Or had the world simply been unaware of such events, trapped in the shadows of more conventional military history? For the military, the discovery of a covert base containing advanced technologies and operations beyond what had been publicly known left the higher-ups scrambling. The findings raised alarms. How much did they really know about the covert operations and experimental technologies in place during times of war? How many more secrets had been buried, left for future generations to uncover, potentially altering the course of history once again? The most disturbing aspect of the discovery was the idea that the patrol had stumbled upon something that had been intentionally hidden, something that had been deliberately kept out of the public eye, for reasons that could not be easily explained. Experts from across the globe were brought in to study the advanced machinery and to try to decrypt the symbols left behind. But each expert came to a disconcerting conclusion. This was no ordinary military installation. Many of the leading scientists and engineers involved in the analysis had never encountered technology like this before. The systems were unlike anything they had seen in modern warfare. But it wasn't just the technology that sent shockwaves through the military world. The deeper question, the question that no one could answer, was the origin of the installation itself. The technology was advanced, sure, but it also seemed out of time. How had such a facility come into existence without anyone knowing about it? Who had built it, and for what purpose? The media, along with many conspiracy theorists, seized on the idea that the world had been kept in the dark about a Shadowara war that had been fought with unknown weapons and tactics, and a war whose true events had never been shared with the public. Theories flooded the internet, ranging from alien involvement to secret military projects designed to test advanced weapons, to even the possibility of a lost civilization that had survived under the radar of history. The families of the missing soldiers, understandably, reacted with a mix of shock, relief, and heartbreak. They had waited for answers for so long, hoping against hope that their loved ones might still be alive. But when the truth came to light, they found themselves faced with the reality that their family members had been part of something far larger and far darker than they could ever have imagined. Their loved ones had unknowingly been thrust into a situation that was bigger than them, bigger than their country, and bigger than history itself. The reaction of the public was mixed. While many were fascinated and excited by the discovery, others found themselves deeply disturbed. How many more secrets like this one remained buried in the world? What other events had been swept under the rug by those in power? The discovery cast a dark shadow over what people thought they knew about history and warfare, and it raised more questions than it answered. As the world grappled with the monumental discovery, one question continued to haunt everyone involved. What exactly had happened to the missing patrol? Despite the breakthroughs, despite the hidden military base and the strange technologies uncovered, there were still too many unanswered questions that kept the mystery alive. The most pressing question was why the patrol had been drawn to this location in the first place. The coordinates they had followed, which led them straight to the ruins, had been clearly marked, but by whom and why? Was it a trap? A deliberate invitation? The missing patrol had been specially trained for reconnaissance, yet they had walked straight into a situation that neither they nor anyone else could have foreseen. The questions surrounding their disappearance seemed to get more complex with each passing day. Even more troubling was the disturbing journal entry left behind by one of the soldiers. The last words recorded were cryptic. "Something is out there. We are not alone. We must leave before it's too late." These words, written just hours before the patrol vanished, hinted at an encounter with something or someone far more powerful than any of the men could have anticipated. What had they seen that led them to believe they were being stalked? Was it something tangible, or a fear that had taken hold of them? The idea that they were not alone in such a vast, uncharted territory only deepened the mystery. And then there were the strange symbols found on the walls of the control room. The markings were unlike anything the experts had ever encountered. Some tried to connect the symbols to ancient languages. Others theorized they might have been part of a coded military message. But the truth was, no one knew. The lack of context around these symbols only added to the growing uncertainty. As the investigation continued, it became clear that the truth would not be easily unearthed. The military had always been tight-lipped about their operations, but this situation seemed different. The secrecy surrounding this discovery, how the facility had remained hidden for so long, was unsettling. Was it a rogue operation that had gone off the radar, or was it part of something larger? Something the world was never meant to know. Another unanswered question was the missing patrol's last actions. Had they uncovered something they shouldn't have? What had they done in the final hours before they disappeared? Could their decision to investigate further have been influenced by an external force? The unanswered questions piled up, each theory more bizarre and unsettling than the last. Theories ranged from the possibility that the patrol had encountered advanced technologies that they couldn't understand, perhaps even alien technology, to the disturbing idea that the entire operation had been part of a secret military program designed to explore uncharted territories with unknown risks. There were also those who believed the patrol had unknowingly uncovered something far older and more mysterious than anyone could have predicted: a lost civilization or an ancient power that had remained hidden for centuries. Despite the growing body of evidence, the fundamental truth remained elusive. Was there something in the jungle, something hidden in the depths of these ruins, that still had the power to destroy? Or had the patrol stumbled upon an intelligence so advanced, so far beyond modern understanding, that they couldn't possibly survive the encounter? As the search team delved deeper into the hidden military base, it became increasingly apparent that what the patrol had uncovered was not just a mysterious sight, it was a forgotten chapter in military technology. Among the debris and remnants of the long-abandoned facility, they discovered advanced weapons systems that, if they had ever seen widespread use, could have completely shifted the balance of power during past conflicts. The equipment found in the control room alone suggested that the base had been more than just a storage facility. It had been a testing ground for experimental military technologies, some of which seemed centuries ahead of their time. Among the most perplexing finds was a strange device that looked like an advanced weaponized energy system, something that, at first glance, appeared to harness a form of energy that wasn't understood by contemporary science. One of the scientists, a leading expert in energy weapons, cautiously speculated that the device was capable of emitting a focused electromagnetic pulse strong enough to disable entire military units. The implications were staggering. If this device had been used in combat, it could have crippled entire fleets of military equipment, turning the tide of war with a single strike. But why had it been hidden away? Was it too dangerous to use? Or had it simply never been deployed? The weapon systems found were not limited to energy-based devices. In the ruins, the team also uncovered designs for advanced projectile weapons, long-forgotten prototypes that combined elements of early firearms with experimental designs that could have revolutionized warfare. These weapons, though crude by today's standards, were unmistakably built to break through traditional military defenses, bypassing the established tactics that had governed warfare for centuries. Another set of plans, found in a locked compartment, detailed the development of biomechanical enhancements, cybernetic augmentations that could give soldiers enhanced strength, speed, and endurance. The chilling part of this discovery was the realization that these enhancements weren't just theoretical. They had been tested on live subjects. The documents suggested that there had been a series of trials, though the results remained classified and were deeply troubling in their implications. The question now became, had these weapons been suppressed by the powers that controlled military technology? Were they deliberately hidden, either because of their dangerous potential or because they didn't fit into the world's existing military structure? It wasn't difficult to imagine why these technologies were buried. Such power could change everything. The most haunting part of the discovery was the immediate shift in the world's perception of warfare. If these innovations had ever been fully realized and unleashed, entire wars could have been fought and won with technologies no one had anticipated. The missing patrol had stumbled upon a cache of game-changing weapons, but the more the team investigated, the more it became clear that these devices had the potential to reshape the very nature of conflict itself. What had happened to the people who had developed these technologies? Why were they abandoned in a forgotten base, never brought to the battlefield? Had the weapons been too dangerous for anyone to wield, or was there something even darker at play here? Perhaps these advanced weapons were simply too powerful for a world unprepared for their use. The discovery of advanced weapons, hidden technology, and the unsettling secrets buried in the military base only deepened the mystery surrounding the missing patrol. As the investigation team pieced together the clues, it became clear that the patrol hadn't stumbled upon this base by mere chance. They had encountered something far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. Amid the wreckage of the facility, buried beneath layers of rusted metal and forgotten documents, the team uncovered the final part of the puzzle, a set of detailed military reports, chronicling a last-ditch defense of the base, one that had taken place years earlier. The reporters described the final stand made by a small group of soldiers against overwhelming forces, a group that, according to the documents, had been overpowered and outnumbered by a force they couldn't fight. The reports were chilling. As the soldiers made their final stand, they faced not only conventional enemy forces, but also advanced experimental weapons that had been developed at the facility. These weapons were capable of decimating entire battalions with a single strike. The soldiers fought valiantly, but the advanced technology on the opposing side proved too much to overcome. In the end, the base was lost, and the personnel stationed there were either killed or forced to retreat. But what struck the team most about the reports was the last entry written in a different hand. A final note from the commanding officer of the base. The officer wrote about the unnatural silence that descended upon the facility after the battle, a silence that was unnerving and suffocating. He mentioned how the enemy forces simply disappeared, leaving behind only the wreckage of battle and the strange technologies they had used. The officer's final words hinted at something far more sinister. He wrote that something else had been at play, a force that was not fully understood, one that had played a role in the base's downfall. This was no longer a simple battle for control. The officer believed that the true enemy had been something much darker, something that had remained hidden even from the soldiers who had fought to defend the base. Could it be that the patrol had discovered something they were never meant to find? Had they encountered a force far beyond the scope of military conflict, one that could not be defeated by conventional means? The question haunted the investigation team as they realized the full scope of what had transpired at the base. The patrol hadn't just vanished, they had become part of a larger, more complex narrative, one that involved forces beyond their comprehension. As the final piece of the puzzle fell into place, it became clear the true nature of the patrol's disappearance would never be fully understood. What they had encountered, what had led them into that hidden facility, remained a mystery, shrouded in secrecy and darkness. Had they uncovered something that was never meant to be discovered? And if so, what had become of them in the end? What do you think happened to the patrol in the final moments? Were they the victims of something far beyond their control? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're still hooked on this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to stay updated as we explore more mysteries of military history. The truth is out there, but it's more unsettling than we could have ever imagined.